My name is Mary, and I am about to tell you a story that I probably should never share. I am a 45-year-old woman in the darkest period of my life. Years of marriage, followed by a divorce, and those long months when I lost all faith in myself. The reflection in the mirror felt like a stranger. Standing in front of the mirror in my underwear, I would think, why would anyone desire you? The people who once told me I was beautiful had fallen silent. I had forgotten myself, perhaps, thinking back, I had lost myself. I wasn't going out. Wealth had given me only a desolate corner of solitude. Then came Slatter. No matter how much I resisted that young man, despite the 25 years between us, he reached my very depths. I felt all his warmth and found myself in his arms. When a new neighbor moved into the neighborhood, I had no idea he would change my life. The first time I saw him, he was walking down the sidewalk in ripped jeans, a white t-shirt, and a charismatic smile. He was in his early 20s, a free spirit. Watching him through the curtains of my window, I could never have imagined what might happen between us. Slatter was the one who made the first move. But it wasn't with politeness, it was direct, bold, and occasionally cheeky. One morning, I found this young man standing on my porch, holding a cup of coffee. "Mary," he said, "since this place is so dull, I've made it my mission to whisk you away from here." His voice was so confident that I didn't know how to respond. "I don't think we've met," I managed to say. But he just shrugged with a smile. "Well, everything has a beginning. You could start by inviting me in for coffee. We'll discuss the rest in your bedroom." His boldness made me both uncomfortable and intrigued. Still, I didn't invite him in. "Thank you, but," I began, but he interrupted me with a sly smile. "Mary, when was the last time you had an adventure in your life?" he asked, sipping his coffee. "If you can't answer, then that's the problem." I tried to brush him off, but Slatter wasn't someone who gave up easily. One day, as he wandered into my garden, he approached me. "Mary, when you look at these flowers, what do you see?" he asked. "Wilted leaves in need of care, or the splendor waiting for spring to awaken?" His words ignited something inside me. But they were also unsettling. "Slatter, people your age don't usually talk like this," I said with a smirk. But he nonchalantly leaned closer. "People my age usually talk nonsense. But I prefer to spend my time wisely, with someone worthwhile." These conversations became more frequent as the days passed. But what Slatter said was less about polished flirtation and more about deliberately pushing me to my limits. One evening, as we sat on the porch, he asked, "Mary, why are you always so in control? Have you ever tried losing yourself? Like, have you ever stripped down and swum in the sea at midnight? Or been with the person your heart truly desired?" I tried to challenge him with my gaze. "Slatter, you may be young, but you don't understand some things. Losing control isn't always a good idea." But he approached with that mischievous smile. "No, Mary. I think the real problem is that you've never found yourself. Let me show you." His audacity both angered and intrigued me. The next day, he came to my porch again, using a pretext about his new house. But the conversation quickly turned in another direction. "Mary," he said, leaning across the table toward me, "I can see it in your eyes. You still carry the passions of a younger woman. But you've locked them away so tightly you've even forgotten the key." His words embarrassed me and, somehow, provoked me. "Slatter, does being this persistent usually work for you?" I asked coldly. But his response caught me off guard. "It's not persistence, Mary. I just want you to see the truth. I'm here to awaken the fire you've hidden inside." And he succeeded. One day, as I sat on my porch drinking tea, Slatter came closer and said, "Mary, if you trust me just once and let go, I'll make you experience things you've never felt before." His words weren't just an invitation, they were a challenge. For a moment, I hesitated. There was a burning honesty in his eyes. I knew the dangers of staying near him, but at the same time, the allure of that danger drew me in. "All right, Slatter," I said softly, "what do you suggest?" At that moment, Slatter leaned in and whispered, "Just go with the flow, Mary. Control is your greatest enemy." That night, for the first time, I let go of control. We took a long walk in the rain. Our clothes were completely soaked. I was wearing a white shirt, and by then, everything underneath was visible. There was a madness in his eyes and fire in his words. "Mary," he said suddenly, "a woman like you doesn't deserve an ordinary life. You carry volcanoes in your heart. And I want to watch them erupt." Those words tore down all the walls inside me. Our closeness was sudden and intense. Soaked by the rain, I was freezing, but the warmth of his hands on my skin sparked something deep within me. The delicate yet assertive movements of his fingertips transported me to a world I had long forgotten. When our eyes met, there was both a challenge and a deep longing in his gaze. In that moment, time seemed to stand still. As Slatter's hands moved from my shoulders to my waist, my breath quickened. "Mary," he said slowly, "stop doing this to yourself. Stop fighting with yourself and just feel." His words were an invitation. At first, I thought of pulling away, but a voice inside me told me to let go. And I did. The distance between us disappeared in an instant. We stripped away everything that separated us. When our lips first touched, I abandoned all the chaos inside me. His occasional boldness made me feel strange, and I enjoyed it. After an hour of passionate moments, I felt something I hadn't in years. A volcano erupted within me, slowly but with immense pleasure, reaching my deepest core. I hadn't experienced anything like it for so long. When he tried to pull away, I held on to him, locking myself in his embrace and not letting go. Even though thorns pricked my back, what was happening inside me was something I had long craved. That night, I didn't just feel passion but also understood the meaning of freedom. What Slatter offered me wasn't just a relationship, it was an opportunity to rediscover myself. Every touch, every word redefined me. The moments I spent with him pushed me beyond my own boundaries. And this was only the beginning. After that night, Slatter and I were almost like a married couple. He never made me feel my age, he treated me as if I were a 20-year-old young woman. He behaved like this everywhere, on the street, in the kitchen, in the living room, and most importantly, in bed. Every touch, every word redefined me. Each moment with him helped me surpass my own limits. And this, at least I thought, was just the beginning. I believed we had wild and unforgettable days ahead of us with Slatter. What was happening between us had become the talk of the neighborhood, which made me quite uncomfortable. But Slatter didn't care at all. Oddly, I was afraid that my ex-husband, the one who had left me and severely affected my life, would hear about it. I guess, unintentionally, I let this fear show to Slatter. Once he started noticing this, his attitude toward me began to change. He wasn't treating me badly, but it felt like I was no longer the passionate, beloved woman he had fallen for. To him, I was just a piece of flesh, a body that he needed to fill every night. And he wasn't as gentle, affectionate, or romantic as before. He was rough, fiery, and fast. I was still experiencing pleasure, but I was scared. After every night, I would wake up with 5 finger marks on my body. On the following days, I would struggle to walk due to the exhaustion. One night, I came home early from work and found a young woman in the house. She was wearing my clothes and was with Slatter. I stormed into the house, causing a scene, and we started yelling at each other. Eventually, Slatter couldn't hold back and shouted, "Do you even care about me? You're still thinking about your ex-husband. You still miss him, so I take my revenge like this." I hadn't realized how much this issue had affected him. That night, we both confronted our feelings, and I felt the volcano erupt once again, just like on the first night. From then on, everything became more transparent. Only one thing changed: I told him I seemed to enjoy his